Merry Christmas Eve. I love when I have coffee left over and I can just do this in the morning. That's how you make coffee in the morning, son. You just put it in the pan.
Okay, so the number 8 best game that I played this year, Metroid Samus Returns. So I talked a little bit about this last time. This is a franchise that has been dormant for so long. If you're a Metroid fan, it's hard to understand what exactly Nintendo was thinking. Everybody loves this series. All of the games have been of a consistent high quality. And literally the last game that came out was Metroid Prime 3. And that was in 2007. I remember specifically I had just graduated college and I got really sick, but I remember playing through Metroid Prime 3 and thinking that, man, these Wii remote controls are actually really good and actually makes the game better. Whereas most of the Wii remote games just felt like a gimmick and they weren't very fun to play, outside of like Wii Sports, of course. When they first announced it, it was kind of up in the air because it was from Mercury Steam, and they had made a good Castlevania game, and then the second one that they made wasn't that good, and then they made one for the 3DS that was supposedly even worse. Now, granted, I haven't played any of those, so I'm all going off of secondhand knowledge, but people who I trust have said that that was the case. But after they announced this at E3, all signs indicated that it was probably gonna be pretty good. And then actually having gotten it, it feels like a Metroid. That's like the biggest compliment I can give it. Just the actual interaction of yourself in the world and then finding secrets, it all feels very Metroid-like. When I went to Florida recently, while I was on the plane, I was like, you know what? What usually happens with these type of games is I'll start playing them, and then I'll take a big break and I won't remember what I was doing or where I was going, and then I just will never finish it, even though I was enjoying the game. So this time, I decided, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm going to play this game from start to finish. It's not gonna be that long, in like a 1-week period. Because if I do that, I'll have like the whole thing in my head and it'll be a much more cohesive experience. So after the work was done and I went on the plane home, I played all day at the airport, all day on the plane, all day at the connecting area, then all day on the connecting flight. And I almost finished it, and I finished it the next day, but it was such like a good Metroid experience, and one of the biggest reasons was because they added a new scan mechanic. So instead of like Metroid Fusion where you're just bombing every single wall trying to figure out what you're supposed to be doing.
Here's a great example. I'm stuck in this room. I can't jump out on the left or the right, so time to shoot every single tile in the room, right?
You hit the scan, and then it'll show you the secrets in the room. And then it becomes a matter of, oh, what do I need to access this secret? The bosses were really good. There was one in particular later in the game that has lots of different stages. It's really hard to execute, and it's all about figuring it out. That's like what Nintendo has always done best, is making these bosses where you have to figure out how to actually fight them. And then once you do, the satisfaction of figuring it out and then also executing on it feels really satisfying. And I guess just one last thing, the parry mechanic, it doesn't really add a whole lot to the game, so I don't feel like it's essential, but it does make for a nice visual, especially during the boss fights. It's really fun and satisfying to use it on them. But overall, Metroid Samus Returns, very pleasantly surprised. It was 10 hours of solid Metroid. I was really happy with it. If they could release one of these like every 2 years, that would make me really happy. I don't think they're going to, and it remains to be seen whether Metroid Prime 4 is any good or not. But if this is the direction they're going, all signs point to good times. Okay, so I talked about one of my surprises of the year. There was a game released for the Switch and a couple of other consoles called Wonder Boy. It's a remake of Monster World 3 Wonder Boy or something. I'm not sure. This was my first experience with the game, but this was another one that I bought right before I left for China, and I can't remember what convinced me to buy it, but as soon as I bought it and I was playing through the first level, the music just like hits you so hard and it's so good, and the visuals are incredible. The new art style that they did is just, it's superb. It's really interesting that you can switch back and forth between the old style and the new style. It's amazing how well the new art style still fits the game, even though the old art style you'd think would be like, I mean, I have no nostalgia for the game, so I had no reason to think that the old art style was any good, but it actually looks quite nice, and then the new art style just really complements it really well. I loved the beginning song the most, but all of them, like, they really fit each of the worlds, and the songs are so tied to the memory of that China trip now that if I ever play that game again, it's gonna immediately feel like I'm on that trip again. But I don't know, it was just lots of really cool little secrets. It had a nice progression to it. It actually felt like a game that's much more modern. Games of that era, I always considered them to be way too difficult and have terrible progression, and you can't tell why you're supposed to go to one place and go to the other place. But this game, I felt like it really nicely guided you to each area as you got one of your new monster forms. I don't know, overall it was just a really good game. Really solid. I don't have any desire to play through it again, but the one playthrough I had was great. A great surprise, came out of nowhere for me. Number 7. This is another game where the franchise has not been dormant, but it has been really bad for a really long time. And it was incredible for this game to finally have a good entry in the series. If you can guess that, which you might be able to guess that, put it in the comments below. But yeah, tomorrow, number 7. Okay, so the number 8 best game that I played, yeah,